Ghislain, a very warm welcome to our podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. As I was telling you, we have a bit of a series where we're talking to a number of Mauritian athletes in various fields because I genuinely believe that sports can teach us to be better human beings, better workmates, and just life in general to in addition to obviously helping us be fitter and in better physical health. So the first question I had for you, you had shared a bit of a bio before the podcast about how it all started for you. And I found that fascinating because you probably didn't have the easiest of childhoods. You grew up in quite modest circumstances, but it didn't seem to deter you from achieving your dreams. So I wanted to ask you about what impact has your childhood had on the type of person that you are today?
So thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
There are a lot of triggers that brought me to the athlete that I became. The main ones, I think, would be the competitivity in my family. We are a very competitive family.
Oh, really?
Yes. I mean, it will be for just anything, playing cards, dominoes, or anything. The focus is just winning. Who wins? That's the important thing.
How many are you in your family?
I have 3 elder brothers.
Right, okay.
And my parents already passed away.
Okay. So you were the youngest?
I am the youngest, and
Okay.
the age gap is quite big between us.
Right.
We are talking
okay.
20 years plus.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And which brings me to when I was 5 or 6, I started playing darts with my brothers, my elder brothers. And I really wanted to be better and to try to beat them. So I would be training on my own, trying to get better every day. Didn't happen very much, but I had my first tournament when I was 10 years old. So I got a taste of the competitivity. I think I was the youngest competitor for the tournament. It went pretty good for me. I didn't win anything, but I just loved the competition. I wasn't scared at all, and I felt really at ease doing that.
Why, if I may ask, what is it about competition that you love?
I just love the thrill, the excitement of competition. It just brings the best out of me. I just love competition. For this particular tournament, I did pretty well. Like I said, I didn't win anything, but I just love the adventure, let's say that. Basketball started around 9 years old in my backyard. So I had, like I told in my bio, I had a paint bucket. I drew a hole in and just hang it to a tree. And I was just practicing all day in my backyard by myself.
So your brothers
didn't know the rules.
Your brothers weren't playing basketball?
I had only one elder brother who was playing basketball. He was playing for the police force. But we didn't get to play much together. So it was, at my beginnings, it was almost by myself. I didn't know the rules, I didn't know the basics. It was just shooting around, playing around in the backyard. Had my first team around 12 years old. It didn't go very well for me because I was going to all the trainings, but the coach didn't like me very much.
Didn't pick you?
Yes.
Why is that? Do you know why?
There was a lot of negative comments, like I was the worst player on the court, that I did too many fancy moves because at that time I was watching Jordan tapes and trying to do everything like Michael Jordan. I had a lot of that for a few years, but this is really the thing that really fueled me to get a better athlete. So I didn't want to hear these comments anymore. So I thought I will train, I will get better every day, and I will make sure that I don't hear these type of comments anymore. And really, this is where my career really started in basketball, and it brought the work ethics and everything.
It's funny because your story reminds me of when Kobe Bryant talked about his childhood and when he was growing up. I remember he told this story about when he was 12 or 13, he was literally the worst player, and that fueled him. And he worked hard over a summer or two, and then he came back, everyone was amazed. He was taller, stronger, more powerful. I guess it takes a particular type of personality to be fueled by, I think I'm a bit like that as well actually, to be fueled by being told you can't do something, or to be fueled by someone telling you something is impossible. That drives me. And I guess maybe it's similar for you, that you wanted to you had that
Yes,
self-motivation.
of course, because you really want to prove them wrong. Like you want to work on yourself and see if you don't want to hear these negative comments anymore. You just want to get better and better, and that's it. And the funny thing is that I am born on the same date as Kobe Bryant.
Really?
Yes, but I wish I had the same career.
Well, he did have a beautiful career, but he passed before his time. I think it's very, very sad. But I read a lot about him. But I also saw that your idol is Michael Jordan.
Yes, my idol is Michael Jordan.
Why?
Always. I started playing basketball because of Michael Jordan. Like we say, everybody wanted to be like Mike, so I wanted to be like Mike as well. And I remember I had this videotape, Come Fly With Me. I must have watched it like 1,000 times.
Really?
I know the tape by heart. I know everything about the tape. So, and used to watch it before my games as well, because this really motivated me to play during the tournaments. But yes, Michael Jordan is my idol.
I don't know whether
still
you've
is.
seen. Yeah, I mean he's great. I don't know whether you've seen The Last Dance on
I've seen
Netflix.
I've seen it a couple of times already. Yes.
What's quite funny about it as well is that you can see, you mentioned darts, but I guess that was early in your childhood, that you can see that after he retired, he tried to do other things. He tried to get into golf, and so that inherent competitiveness, as you mentioned, still stays on after his retirement. Do you find that now you're not doing basketball anymore? Are you still inherently a competitive person, or is it less so now because it's not relevant to your life anymore?
It depends on the situation. I mean, for some situation, I might say yes, but right now I think it's a lot better now.
You have your little girl to keep you in check.
Exactly, and when you grow older, you're a little bit okay.
Yeah, pussy.
Well,
Yes.
Yes, so I'm not that competitive person anymore. It's a lot less now.
And what do you think are the three? I pick three because I always find that's a good number. The three main qualities of a great basketball player. What would you say they are?
You need a lot of qualities to be a basketball player. It's a very tough sport, mentally and physically. But we spoke about The Last Dance and we spoke about Kobe Bryant, and you've seen the work ethics. And I think this is the main criteria that you need to be a good basketball player. You cannot be satisfied. I mean, going to training with your team twice a week, 2 hours a week is not going to be enough. So you need to work on yourself, work on your endurance, work on your physical condition, work on your diet. I didn't do that much.
Really?
Yes, because we didn't have the
l'encadrement.
YouTube at that time.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
But work ethics is one of the most important things for a basketball player. You have to grow and you have to train to get better all the time. You have to be hungry for more. You cannot keep yourself satisfied for what you are, because if you think about another athlete who is training harder than you, eventually he's going to be better than you. So work ethics, yes. If I take my case, when I was playing at some time, I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go for a 5-kilometer run. I go back home.
Every day?
Almost every day.
Wow.
About 3-4 times a week. I would go back home, get dressed, go to work. After work, I catch the bus. I go to my brother's place. I will do weightlifting for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not finished. Go back home again, and then I will be shooting around for about an hour and a half, 2 hours again.
Wow.
So that's a normal day for me.
So that was in addition to your group trainings?
Exactly. We had training like 2-3 times a week with the team, but most of my training was individual, so it was for me. Yes, work ethics is very important. I'm thinking about team spirit. It's a team sport, so you have to be a team person. But team spirit in basketball is quite different from my point of view. Okay. Team spirit for me is that everybody on the basketball court should know their role. So everybody can't be the best shooter, can't be the best defensive player or the best rebounder. So at some point, we all need to know our role on the court to make sure that the team works. If everybody's going to shoot,
Yeah.
It's not going to
No
work.
one's going to defend.
No one's going to play defense. And third one I would say would be mental toughness. So you need to have and you need to develop the self-control on the basketball court, whether it's at training or whether it's during the games. An example would be a fourth quarter. This is where usually the best players would shine because the fatigue takes place and your body doesn't respond the same way. And usually the mentally toughest players would shine in this period. Just think about a tight game where it's 70-70 and you have the ball with the last free throw. I've been there and I can tell you my legs were shaking.
Yeah, because it's up to you. It's either you go home or you.
So mental toughness is very important, and it's not only for basketball but in life in general to handle pressure. It's one of the very important things as well.
I completely agree with you, and I would, as you mentioned, I think these qualities then shape whoever you become later, whether in your professional career, but more than that, as a human being as well. Life is not this, otherwise we'll probably all be dead.
We wish it was like that.
Yeah, well, actually, I've heard an interesting analogy once about if our heartbeat was like that, we'd be dead. So it has to go up and down. That's how we learn, that's how we grow. But your role as in the team was very well defined. You were MVP for several years. How did that feel? How did it feel to be the pride of your country? Because you represented at Jeux des Îles, at regional level.
It was a very good motivation to play for my country. I really wanted to prove that I was the best player because you usually have the best players on the basketball team, on the national team. For my first experience, and it was my first international experience, I thought I was very good at basketball. Okay. I thought I would crush everybody.
Yeah. How young were you then?
I was 20 years old.
Okay. Oh, so very young.
Yes, it was in 1998 in Réunion Island.
Okay.
And this is one of my lowest moments in basketball because really? I got to Réunion Island. And when the game started, I could not play at all. The players were very good. They had players coming from overseas. They were professional players on top of the game. And unfortunately, I couldn't play.
Was it because you weren't good enough, or was it because you were stressed, or?
I was not good enough. Right. I mean, the way I used to play in Mauritius and the way you play for the national team is completely different. And the way you play against the other national teams is very different. And I didn't know that because it was my first international experience. So this is one of my lowest points in basketball because I remember we played the team from Madagascar. And at some point, one day somebody told me, you're bad when you feel that you're running after the players. And during the whole game, I felt that I was running after the players from Madagascar.
Trying to get the ball.
They were so fast.
Wow.
I mean, we lost by 31 points on that day, but it could have been a lot more. They were very kind to us. Yeah, wow. They were very good. Got to the camp and we were going for dinner, and we get back to this big hall. Like everybody's eating there, and I was the first to step in, and everybody started laughing. They had a giant screen and everybody saw the beating that we had. So we just took a yogurt, got back to our room.
Oh no!
Didn't sleep at all. That's one of my worst experiences in basketball. But internationally, I played again in 2003. It was in Mauritius.
So that was fast forward 5 years. That was 5 years after that.
Yeah. 5 years.
Okay.
And I wanted to get my revenge on that one. So I trained really hard for that period of the...
And did you change the way you were training or playing?
Yes, during these 5 years, I completely changed the way I played. So, and we had the chance in my previous team, the real team, where we had players from overseas. So what I would do was I would just go to them, ask them questions, train with them, ask them advice, how I can improve my game. And I had the time for these 5 years to get better and to understand the way I should play for the national team. We knew we would not win because the other teams were really better than us.
So we're talking about four countries or five
So you had
countries?
Seychelles,
Yeah.
you had Madagascar, you had Réunion Island,
Yeah, Mauritius.
Comoro Island, and Mauritius.
Okay, five. Yeah.
5 teams.
Okay.
This time it went pretty well for me, I had to say. I was happy the way I played. Still, we didn't win.
But you didn't
Didn't
get
win
beaten
one game.
by... Okay, but you weren't beaten by 30
But
points.
you know, when you are a winner, you have to grab something. So for me, I was able to be the best scorer maybe, or had a few baskets, you know, and yes, I appreciated that one. But like you said, I've been MVP twice. It was with my team for the Coupe des Clubs Champions de l'Océan Indien. We never managed to win that tournament. It was one of my dreams to win that tournament, but we never managed to win that. We came very close.
That's at club level, not national level.
That's at club level.
So you play with other teams from other countries.
Exactly. Yeah. We play regional, so same countries, Seychelles, Madagascar, Comoro Islands. And my first time was in Seychelles in 1998, so just after the Jeux des Îles and my famous
Yes.
let's say setback from the Jeux des Îles.
Yes.
I improved my game, I worked very hard, and we managed to beat the number 1 team in Seychelles at that time. First game, never happened before that a Mauritian team beat a team from Seychelles. We started to earn their respect, I started to earn their respect. We finished second in the tournament, we lost against the same team in the final, but I was MVP, which is quite exceptional because the MVP usually comes from the winning team.
Yes.
But I think I was the best scorer of the whole tournament, which is why I became MVP. The top of my career was the second time I was MVP. And this time it was in 2005 in Madagascar. Okay. I had a great tournament and everything went very well for me. We lost to the same Seychelles team because they won a few of the Coupe des Clubs Champions. They were a really good team. They had players from Africa. We were a lot better than we were. But we were very close to beat them. And surprisingly, I was MVP again, and not from the winning team.
How many points are we talking about here, approximately?
20 plus.
In one game, in a single game?
In one game,
yeah. That's really, really wonderful. And it's funny that you mentioned the Seychelles because we had a former badminton champion, and she was telling us about her highest moments and lowest moments. And she said, Seychelles, tough crowd, because they love their players, and especially if you're playing there. And I was surprised. I hadn't appreciated how much they were invested in sports actually until that podcast. Yeah.
And if you think about the Seychelles population is not very big.
Yeah.
But I remember we had a game in Seychelles one time, and the gym was completely full, and there were twice as many people outside waiting.
No.
Yes. Wow. And they are very dedicated to their sportsmen and the sportsperson. So yes, I love playing in Seychelles.
That's wonderful. And you retired quite late. You retired in your 30s, didn't you?
I retired around my late 20s because I traveled to UK. Okay. But when I came back, I was playing again. And at 40 years old, I won an MVP for the second division.
That's amazing.
Yes, I was quite surprised as well. But yes,
do you think you still have it in you, or you've properly retired now?
No, not anymore. I'm properly retired now. I'm a full-time dad now.
Okay, fair enough. And so, just going back to your lowest moment and your highest moment, would you say that your highest moment was these MVPs that you
Yes,
won?
I definitely think the MVPs are my highest moments. It was a personal achievement for me. It was a reward for all the work I put in. Yes, I am surprised that I've been awarded MVP when you come from the losing team. It's quite exceptional. But when we went to Madagascar, it was really fun. I had the best of tournament in Madagascar, and signing autographs, first time in my life, didn't know what to write, but it was fun, and I really think this is the top of my career.
I know you have a little girl now. Would you like her to be interested in basketball one day, assuming she's tall enough?
I think she has it in her DNA.
Okay. So she's competitive.
She's already very competitive. Strong person. I would say yes and no. It depends. I think it will be her choice. I will try to bring her to an individual sport rather than a team sport, because in Mauritius it's quite hard, the team sports right now. I mean, the structure is not very well established. But individual sports, yes, I'm thinking about tennis or swimming or athletics. But end of the day, it would be her choice. I will let her decide.
Yeah. And when you look at the state of Mauritian basketball, I mean, I remember from my days, because, you know, I was around people who were playing a lot of basketball, so I knew the names of the teams, and whenever I had a newspaper, I would go to the back page and look where we are. But what about today? Like, are people playing basketball?
Yes, people are playing basketball. There's a lot of potential, I think, in Mauritius right now. I don't think we have the right people at the right place, but we are not going to talk about that.
Sure.
But we need to get the younger players interested. Like, we need to invest more in the younger players. I mean, the generation right now is quite finished, let's say. We have to go back to the younger generation. And for that, we need a better structure around them. We need the infrastructure, because if you think about Mauritius now and you want to go and play basketball, you can't find any courts. If you find one, you probably have to pay for it. So it's not very good for the sport. We need the infrastructure in Mauritius right now. When I was in UK, I had an experience when I was playing in a park, and I saw these younger kids playing. They were around 9, 10 years old, playing football. And you had the parents who were just next to them and having a picnic. So you have the interaction between the coach and the parents, and it's just fun because the kids were playing for around 4 hours. The parents are there. They can ask questions to the coach. But I think this would be a good thing for Mauritius to do, to promote basketball and get the parents involved, encourage the younger generation to play basketball.
Now, how young would you say around the time that you started, around 9, 10? What do you think is the ideal age to start?
They start as young as 4 or 5 years old now, but I think that primary school maybe is a good time to start playing basketball. At least you learn the basics. And
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, you've spoken about a few qualities already, but what would you say, looking back now and looking at where your life has evolved to? You've had the chance to live in Australia and the UK as well. What strengths would you say being a former basketball player has given you? What gift has this game given you other than to be a good basketball player?
I developed a lot of things playing basketball. I mean, I was a chubby kid, always sick.
Really?
Like, my mom was getting ready for anything that would happen, flu.
Gosh.
And when I started playing basketball, really, I was very shy as well. So it gave me confidence. And when you play basketball and you develop that mental toughness, you learn about how to deal with situations in your life, how to deal with pressure at work. And I think that's my biggest gift from my basketball career.
Do you have any regrets?
I have one big regret. I really wanted to be a professional player or semi-professional. That would do for me, but never happened. I had a few opportunities. When I was 17, the coach at that time was Jacques Cachemire, who is a famous coach and famous basketball player in France. He offered me to go for a scholarship, but unfortunately didn't go through because he had some issues with the federation, and the project was just...
It just fell through.
Yes. I always felt that I had the level to play at least semi-professional. We had the opportunity to play against Paris Saint-Germain in 2003 with the national team.
Wow.
I think they were 4th or 5th in the league at that time.
Amazing.
Pretty
In
good
France
team.
or here?
No, here. We played in Mauritius. They came for a few days and played in Réunion Island and then played against the national team here. and I had a very good game against them. I scored more than 20 points.
Oh, wow. So you held up your side of the
Yes,
bargain.
I did very well against them, and I wanted to prove that I could play professional or at least semi-professional. The irony is, after the game, the coach at that time was Jacques Monclar, famous commentator in France and famous coach. He came to me and asked me where I played in Europe. And I was like, no, I don't play in Europe, I play here. He said that you have the skills to play in Europe, but gave me a few advice and nothing more than that.
Out of it, yeah.
I also had an opportunity to play. I got a contract with one of the Seychelles #1 team in 2004, but I did not go through with that because the money was not good. Maybe I should have accepted this offer.
Maybe
this
it
could
would
have
have been a stepping stone.
passport for Europe, but this is one of my biggest
regret.
regret. Yes.
Sure. So let's try to end of a positive note. We're talking about regrets, but let's talk about hope for the future. So when you look at today's generation, thinking about your daughter, I'm thinking about my children, why should they get into sports? Why should they invest? I'm not saying professionally, but at least why should they have sport in their life, whether it's collective or individual?
Practicing a sport is life-changing. I mean, it changes your mindset. It brings in you the mental toughness, and getting in sports will really help you to live with other people. I mean, if you think about team sports, traveling with other people, different characters, it's quite difficult. But when you are practicing a sport, meeting different people, this is really life-changing for any individual. I mean, I would definitely encourage my daughter to practice a sport, but not neglecting
of course, the other side as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it really builds your character to practice any sport.
Thank you so much, Ghislain, for your time. I really appreciate it. And it's really an honor. As I shared with you before, I used to be a huge fan. My idol is Sir Charles Barkley. I used to be a massive fan. I think it's because he's so funny. He roasts very well.
Strong character.
And I remember him from the 1996 games in Atlanta. I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
He was the best player.
It. Yes, and he just, I don't know, he has flair. It wasn't just like the game. He's not the best player of all time, but he was pretty good. And I think it's because he just makes me laugh. Sometimes I still go on YouTube and just listen to him.
I don't think it's funny to play against him.
Probably not.
He's a bully on the court.
Yeah, exactly. He always says he has a huge bum and he uses it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure the audience will be inspired by your words and your journey. Thank you.
Thank you.